And then, do you remember if at any time, so you were trying to get away from him,
right,
and you heard the shot. Prior to the shot, do you remember at any point hearing your husband or your brother saying anything to either of them?
No.
So my second very ridiculous question is there anything else that I didn't ask about or anything that we didn't cover that you think is important? I always ask that just because I wasn't there, and so we're going through something that happened a super small amount of time.
Yes. Can I
step? Yeah, go for it.
Just thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Just that he was just so angry, like super scary.
Did you
know how you take your phone away from like a 16-year-old and they freak out? Like their world disintegrates. Like I've taken my phone away from a 16-year-old boy before, and he's like wanted to kill himself because like they cannot function. That's how it was. It was like it's something on his phone that he does not want me to see. That he was like freaking out, like to the point where I thought he would hit me in the back of the head to get the phone.
Okay. So you thought...
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, we're back to small Lori again. She has the threat identified. Her eyes are locked. And we call that Romancer and True Crime Workshop, but it's simply paying all attention so you make sure you don't lose any opportunity to convince the person. She adapts to a leg bump at specific questions. Her blink rate is through the roof. She's shrinking and turtling more. She goes to internal voice when she's asked one of the best questions an interrogator can ask. Is there anything else you should tell me? That's a beautiful question and one that professionals all use. Precisely where she should be, though, is this emotional this accessing when she's doing it. So there's nothing wrong with her going to an internal conversation than emotional accessing. Then she goes in this weird little meditation pose, which is just odd as it can be. I'm always a fan of people doing weird stuff because it gives me insight into their personality. But then she goes into what we typically, the old days, they would call a kinesthetic plane, where you're not doing visual or auditory accessing. You're just down here in emotion and internal voice. She's behind her face working. She's doing our job for us. You never want to bother that. You want to let that person do it. Then when she asks her questions and she pokes her a little, she goes to front of mouth talking. We said, just thinking, and fading facts. Here's another disparage the victim. She goes at him.
You take your phone away from like a 16-year-old.
And then she lowers her head and looks at her in data intake. We've got her behind her face. I thought this might actually turn into an interrogation instead of it just being a questioning. It's pretty nice. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah. So Greg, I'm gonna hammer down hard on this yoga pose for a second.
Yep.
So for you listening, and all our subscribers, I want you to watch this again, and I want you to just try it on through my eyes. When you watch this again, here's what I want you to see. This question she asked about, is there anything else I didn't, ask you that I should have? It's a common question in all interviews. Somehow, I don't know why, but this question makes the interviewer feel slightly socially awkward. The interviewer is actually couching, qualifying, and explaining her reasoning for asking this question.
I always ask that just because I wasn't there, and so we're going through something that happened.
She gets a little bit nervous asking this question. The moment that Lori sees this insecurity and nervousness, her entire being changes. She develops self-confidence in 1 second in the presence of insecurity here. And you can see her entire body shift. She's no longer protecting her abdomen. She sits up, takes this confident posture, and looks like a completely different human being. You're seeing someone who becomes confident the moment she's made someone feel or observes a person being socially awkward about asking questions. And I'll just leave you with that to decide what that means. But I want you to see that so that you'll recognize it in your life if you ever encounter someone similar to this. You get embarrassed and they start acting more confident, or you feel bad and they start acting more confident. It's a big deal. The rest of this clip is just covertly emotionally justifying the gunshot wound to a person who feels emotions. And I think she believes she's going to go home, and I think she believes this will all be over soon, and she's just going to go home and have some dinner. That's all I got. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, here's what I got. I think this is the biggest change in baseline I've ever seen. The only thing that might be as big is there's one interrogation out there or interview out there where they leave the room and the subject stands on their head. I can't remember who it is now, but
Jodi Arias.
Okay, Jodi Arias.
Jodi Arias.
Which that's a big change in baseline, because all the rest of the interview, her head is pointing upwards, and then in that part of her interview, her head's. I mean, that's a big change. In this particular case, we see her legs disappear completely and come up off the ground and into the chair. That's really quite significant. I like your theory about it, Chase. I really like that. Look, whether that theory is accurate or inaccurate, we may well find out over time. However, it's clearly a big thing is happening here. It's a spiritual pose as well. So I think you're right, Chase, in that it's high status. It's like, and then the head bows and everything goes internal, and there's just a lot of space, a lot of thinking space. I think there's some real thinking going on there as well. I think this has given her time to work out what's next, because she doesn't really answer the question at all. The question is, is there anything else that we should have asked? She doesn't answer that. She goes back into enforcing the extreme emotional state that the husband was in. So back to the old story, doesn't answer the question, but what a bold and big move. Never seen anything so big, apart from standing on your head in an interview room. Scott, what do you got on this one?
All right. I think the interrogator did that on purpose. I know what that looks like. And we've talked about that before, not in this specific situation. She's trying to make her, this did the same thing to Ted Bundy, trying to make her feel smart, trying to make her feel like the interrogator's not very smart. I think she did it on purpose. I think the interrogator's that smart. I think she's that slick, because this is going so smoothly. It's going so well. Everything's just kind of moving right along. There's no button of heads or anything. And she's getting all this information out of her. And I think she did that on purpose. That was my take from it, because as soon as I saw it, I said, "Oh my gosh, that's what she's doing." And you're right, Chase. She got all cocky at that point. She thinks she's got it all figured out, and that's what you want sometimes. So that might have been the road she was going down. And the question was excellent. And you're right, Greg. It's the is there anything you haven't told me that you feel like you should tell me? I use that when I'm talking to entrepreneurs. When I get hired to go talk to entrepreneurs, these guys are getting ready to invest in, and they say, "Go talk to these people, see what's going on over there." As I talk to them, I say, "I'm here just to talk to you and see what's going on." You want to make it feel like it's the last thing you want to ask them, but when you're about 3/4 of the way through, that's when you scoot that one out, because that gives you that extra time to work on all that. If they say anything that's weird or out of pocket or something you didn't expect, you've still got that time to talk to them about it. I'll leave it there, but I think that the interrogator knew. What are you going to say, Greg?
You know why I use it that way is I give them an out, make them feel like the door is close, and then they feel liberated, and you go, whoa, wait a minute.
Just one more thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The eyewitness is you.
And then, do you remember if at any time, so you were trying to get away from him,
right,
and you heard the shot. Prior to the shot, do you remember at any point hearing your husband or your brother saying anything to either of them?
No.
So my second very ridiculous question is there anything else that I didn't ask about or anything that we didn't cover that you think is important? I always ask that just because I wasn't there, and so we're going through something that happened a super small amount of time.
Yes. Can I
So,
step back?
yeah, go for it.
Just thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Just that. He was just so angry, like super scary.
Did you
You know how
think?
you take your phone away from like a 16-year-old and they freak out?
Uh-huh.
Like their world disintegrates. Like I've taken my phone away from a 16-year-old boy before, and he's like wanted to kill himself because like they kidnapped him. That's how it was. It was like it's something on his phone that he does not want me to see. That he was like freaking out, like to the point where I thought he would hit me in the back of the head to get the phone.
Okay. So you thought.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.